The companions, along with Gilthanas, are on their way to Pax Tharkas when Fizban quietly remarks that they are being followed. Of course, since he seems scatterbrained if not outright senile, his warning, even in seeming lucidity, doesn't carry much weight. What does is the sight of a battle between men and hobgoblins with only one survivor, a human named Eben, who had been part of Gilthanas' party that was captured. Before they can decide what to do with him, Draconians attack. This is Tika's first real battle after her decision to become a swordswoman, with mixed results, nearly hitting one of her own with a wild swing, then losing her sword in a Draconian when it turns to stone, but finally defeating the one menacing her with nothing but a shield, bashing it to death in her relentless drive to survive. Kiriman is there for her afterwards, and this soon leads to a moment of intense desire between the two. But Tika withdraws. As Gold Moon later explains to Kiriman, Tika is a virgin who has heard lots of terrifying stories about sex. So despite her attraction, she is hesitant. Gold Moon also adds that Tika seeks his approval as a warrior. He needs to be careful to ensure she doesn't offer to sleep with him in an effort to gain it. Kiriman turns all of this back around on Gold Moon, though, since despite all that has happened between her and Riverwind, they have yet to come together. But this actually fits her point. It will mean that much more to both of them when the time arrives, because they waited until when they both felt that they were ready, not because they felt to rush into a sexual relationship purely to satisfy their lustful thoughts. When they sight the twin towers of Pax Tharkas, we learn that this is a pre-cataclysm site, built by elves and dwarves on the border between their lands. But the sight of their destination brings a rift in the party. Eben shares suspicions about Gilthanas, that his group evaded the enemy for weeks before encountering the elves, and then they were ambushed. And what's more, when that happened, Gilthanas had left the camp. Gilthanas admits that he had, but not to meet with hobgoblins, but with druids, hoping that they might help. Nevertheless, Gilthanas' attitude towards humans has not made many in the party inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt, and some even suggest forgoing his plan of a secret entrance through caves by going straight through the front entrance. Tanis, however, sticks with the plan, and the rest follow him. At his instruction, they leave the entrance to the caves ajar so that if there is someone following, they can continue, and then the companions can find out who and why. The one following them turns out to be Laurana, attempting to join the group despite being told to stay behind. Her timing is horrible. They are right in the middle of an encounter with a deadly giant slug. See, Raistlin had a sense of great evil in one direction, and they went the other. But while the deadly giant slug isn't evil, it's certainly a horrible predator, and with the distraction of Laurana, Tanis is wounded, his weapon destroyed. They managed to wound but not kill the giant slug, thanks in part to Tanis acquiring the sword of the dead elven king, whom he vaguely recalls giving him the blade in the heat of battle. But this, it seems, isn't the last time we encounter the dead here, and it won't be as beneficial as this was. Nevertheless, Tanis is outraged that Laurana would do this, putting herself and all of them in danger in what he sees as a childish, selfish act of infatuation when they are trying to save their people. Indeed, we soon hear from Verminard himself the dispatches are to be sent to begin the assault on Qualinasti tomorrow. But while Laurana is the one that has Tanis frustrated, it's Gilthanas that has several of the humans concerned, given what has happened and Eben's account. Gold Moon explains that, as a priestess of Mishika, she is here to help restore the balance between the gods of evil and the gods of good, and so the enemy wants her to ensure she can't restore the balance. And indeed, we soon learn that there is a spy in the party, although whether it is Eben or Gilthanas is uncertain right now. Neither man helps their case. When they go the other direction, the one Raistlin warned them about, a false door is found. By using a spell from his spellbook, Raistlin reveals the entire wall is a door and opens it. They soon reach a room that is perfectly round and enormous, with an anchor for a gigantic set of chains that are used in the defense of Pax Tharkis. But between the two suspects, the party is forced to deal with what lies beyond that door, the treasure room. What's inside right now is worthless. The gold bars have no value after the cataclysm. And the spirit of the drow within has been awakened. The dark elf was condemned to death, and then her spirit left here to guard the treasure for all eternity. The creature is impossible to fight, and it's only thanks to Raceland's memory of his time in the tower, which scarred his body, that he's able to recall how to protect them from the ghost. But during the panicked response, Fizban and Tasselhoff are separated from the group, climbing the chain and getting lost in the ancient citadel. It's at this time that we switch to Lord Verminard himself and his red dragon Ember, although known to his fellow dragons as Pyros. After being annoyed, Verminard orders Pyros to take his human form, during which two prisoners are brought in, one presumed to be a human spy, the other the gully dwarf Seston, who worked to help the companions escape. For that, Seston is condemned to be eaten alive by the dragon, causing him to pass out in horror. But what Verminard doesn't know is that the dragons sent by the Queen of Darkness have an agenda that's hidden from the human minions. They're seeking a man. She calls him the Everman. The dragons call him the Green Gemstone Man. But his human name is Barum. That is why Pyros attends these meetings, to try to find anyone who might know something about this extremely important person. While we see some things from other points of view, the story continues to turn back to Tanis' point of view. This in spite of the fact that, in much of this, Raceland is guiding the party and frequently is the topic of conversation. He's suspected of working for the enemy by Stern. Flint suggests throwing him into the cave first to see if it's safe, and even Tanis momentarily turns on him when suspicion about Gilthanas is brought up by Karaman, saying that if there's anyone he doesn't trust, it's not Gilthanas, it's Raceland. Yet the story only briefly puts us inside Raceland's head, when he is struggling to find out how to stop the Dark Elf spirit from killing them all. But this is no surprise, as Raceland is mysterious and complex. Even as we are nearing the end of the first volume, only the smallest of hints of his past are being teased out for us, giving us a further glimpse of how it was in the tower that left him in his current state. Tanis thus remains our focal point character, as it's he who draws things together. He is the connection to Gilthanas that is responsible for the question, and the connection to Lorana, who is the distraction. We also see that he seems to mentally side himself with the elves in this, as he notes when Stern and Karaman join Eben in suspecting Gilthanas. Tanis immediately considers himself an elf in that moment. He's personally a bit surprised at this revelation. Yet the fact that he received the sword of Kithcanon by the elf's hand could suggest that he effectively walks the line between those two worlds. Kithcanon himself married a human during the Kinslayer Wars, thus his children were half human, just like Tanis is. The passing of the sword is no doubt a sign of his approval. Tomorrow we'll wrap up our look at Book 2 of Dragons of Autumn Twilight and conclude the first volume of Dragonlance.